Warning. This episode contains depictions of arrogant elves, creepy dwarves, and bloodthirsty old men with pitchforks. And as always, teen angst. Also, there will be spoilers for chapters 11 through 14 of Eldest, Book 2 of the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. Listen at your own risk.
Is this a podcast, or is this just fantasy? We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. So join us if you want to nerd out. Time to start the podcast and see. Anyway, here's the show.
Hello, readers. I'm Dane Patterson, the host, who is also born of a she-wolf, full-grown and fully formed. Came out, high-five my doctor, or vet, or whatever.
News to me. I'm Jacqui Lanier, and is this a podcast or is this just fantasy? The podcast where we may have a deep and religious confusion about the difference between rocks and coral, but at least we don't go around mocking other people's religions. That's important.
Never that. If you would like to support us on Patreon, there's a link in the show notes. If you can't or just don't want to, we totally understand that. And we just ask that you please rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
And if paying for things and giving us your enduring seal of approval aren't up your alley, you can always just find us and interact with us in other places on the internet. We post goofy shit on Instagram and Twitter at Just Fantasy Pod and on TikTok at Is This Just Fantasy Pod? And we also have a website at isthisjustfantasypod.com where you can find our episode archive and buy our sweet merch. Easy for me to say.
Nice job, man.
The social plugs are hard. Props to you for doing that all the rest of the time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I would like to start this episode with a quick recap per usual.
Okay.
You know the drill,
Yeah,
Dane.
we're all old hats at this now. We get it.
Before we get into this week's chapters, let's take a look back. When we flash back to Aragon, he and Saphira are heading to a meeting with Hrothgar about the Varden succession situation. The dwarves look like they're going to approve of Neswata, which is great. And Saphira pledges to fix the shattered star Sapphire if the dwarves can reassemble every last speck of dust first. And to their credit, the dwarves are immediately just like, yes, of course we can do that. No problem. Very good, very happy. Much celebrating and drinking ensue, with Saphira passing out drunk after the big banquet that night, which triggers Aragon's back spasm and knocks him out along with her on the floor.
Yeah.
The mounting tally of hangovers is making our official head trauma count a little iffy here. I think we're, for this book,
Yeah. At
2.
Yeah.
Yes. I think this book is 2. Last book was 4. Either way, Aragon's brain's not doing great.
Yes.
I'm taking the stance that it doesn't matter to Kevin, the whole hangover thing. If it doesn't matter to him, it doesn't matter to us. You know, he doesn't seem to miss a beat. So both Aragon and Saphira get to wake up with brutal hangovers the morning of Ajahad's funeral and Neswata's coronation. It's a double header and they're not feeling good. And it's a tough look for them. They're late, they're sloppy, but being the most powerful duo in the room has perks because they're still guests of honor throughout all the festivities.
Yeah.
Ajahad secures prime placement in a royalty-adjacent dwarven-style tomb. And I'm glad to see our new favorite Zaddy get the respect he deserves.
Yeah.
And Neswata's coronation, while apparently mind-numbingly boring for Aragon, goes off essentially without a hitch, unless you count Aragon surprising the hell out of the council by swearing fealty to Neswata personally instead of the Varden as a whole. And our babies are really starting to like throw their weight around here. We love to see it.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
And after a brief interlude in which Aragon gets propositioned in every conceivable way by Triana, the new interim director of Duvrain Gargata, Aragon and Saphira head to a meeting with Neswata where she tells them she wants them to leave ASAP, tomorrow, with Auric and Arya to go start the rest of their training with the elves in Elismira, because she's also planning to get the rest of the Varden the hell out these mountains to capitalize on their victory over the Urgles by mounting an offensive into the Empire from neighboring Serta. You got that straight.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. She's making moves before anyone has time to think, and I am respecting the hustle. I love Neswata.
She's definitely got a certain flair.
Yes, for sure. And we wrapped up last episode's set of chapters with Aragon and Saphira taking a little farewell tour around Farthen Dŵr. They run into Angela, who knows the hot ticket for action is going to be to follow Niswada, so she's also headed to Serta. And when they meet up on their way out of town, Oric has some sweet parting gifts from Hrothgar. He officially gives Aragon and Saphira their armor, like the loner armor they wore from the battle under Farthen Dŵr, along with a helm for Aragon that bears the symbol of Oric and Hrothgar's clan, Durgrimst Ingedam. Oric explains that if Aragon accepts and wears the helm, it will mean he's been adopted by Hrothgar. So we know Kevin's jumping right on that bandwagon because our guy cannot resist collecting a new dad whenever possible. And as the Ellesmere-bound entourage rides out of the mountain at dawn, I can't help but think our dwarven daddy better watch his back. The life expectancy for Aragon's father figures is precipitously low.
So low.
Lower than average. Are you ready to see if Hrothgar makes it longer than Ajahad did?
I mean, I think if we do a chapter count, we can figure that out pretty quick.
Womp.
But I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm loving all of that.
Yes.
I love your recap.
Thank
I love
you.
these chapters. I love what we're gonna read. I'm loving everything. The politics is true. Yeah, I'm loving it. I like no. What I'm excited about is like the politics and the religion have been turned to 11.
Yes.
The world is seeming just way bigger to me.
Yes, for sure.
And in my personal life, I also love talking about politics and religion. Yes, I'm that guy. So
that's true. Like much to your wife's chagrin, she and I can confirm that's very, very real.
Yes. And so like for me, this is just like, mwah, you know what I mean?
I guess I would agree with you on the world building aspect of this. Like, I know I say it enough to be annoying, but one of the biggest strengths in Christopher Paolini's writing is the world building. So I like that after kind of the action-packed opening of Eldest with the, ambush and a big death and everything going on, this section is managing to like keep the pace going, at least from my perspective. Like it still feels quick, like we're moving along, but we're kind of like settling into some new places, some new cultures,
some new people.
Yeah, I love it.
It's pretty good. And this week, much like last week, you get to take the lead
on chapter summaries.
Yeah.
It's a little, I'm not going to lie, it's a little scary being the one to start. I like it better when you do it.
I have full faith in you. Are you ready to do it?
No.
Okay, well, I guess that's it for today's show.
I'll power through.
Let's do it.
Okay, we start here with chapter 11, Hammer and Tongs. We're back with Roran at his camp in the Spine. The Rozak and soldiers look like they're happy to just wait him out. So he's bored as fuck, pacing and practicing archery until your boy Baldur comes to give him an update. Yes. Baldur says the soldiers are just getting drunk and bragging around town. That's it.
Sounds like soldiers to me.
Yeah. But the Rozak have been questioning people, mostly Katrina. Baldur also tries to reason that Roran might consider surrendering to keep the whole town from being treated as traitors. So Baldur pitches this idea. I'm kind of the opinion he's maybe not wrong here.
Yeah.
Roran's first reaction is absolutely the fuck not. But he does actually consider the position that the villagers are in. He decides to wait a while longer. And if the Rozak escalate things, he'll cross that bridge when he comes to it. It seems like that might be kind of a pattern for Roran here. He likes to be like, oh, I see the conflict, and maybe if I just spend some time thinking about it because I'm introspective, it'll resolve itself.
If I wait it out, it should be fine.
Yeah. So that night, Roran sees a flurry of lanterns in town. Apparently, it seems like an hours-long confrontation between the townspeople and the soldiers. The buzz of activity continues through the next day, where he sees the villagers running around town, and two of them enter the soldiers' camp and the Rozak's tent specifically. So Roran's just like, what the fuck is going on down there?
Yeah.
Baldur, of course, comes back that night with the update to spill the tea. Baldur's the best.
Yeah.
Quimby, remember the brewer, died trying to break up a fight between two drunken soldiers the previous night, and the Rozak took his body and went back to their camp. The villagers wanted his body back to be able to bury him because that was a weird move on the Rozak's part.
Yeah.
But they were not able to get it until the next day. Two townspeople were allowed to go meet with the Rozak in their camp, and they brought back Quimby's bones clean but with nipple marks.
Ugh.
They brought his bones like that back to Quimby's wife, Bridget, right?
That's gross, yeah.
Roran is horrified, obviously. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
And Baldur tells him the soldiers also seem appalled by the Razak, which is kind of interesting. They realize, I think, here that the Razak are not human. There's something else happening.
And we're getting like confirmed evidence that like those slaves in Drasleona are being probably eaten.
It seems that way, yes.
Yeah.
I have a no bones about that assumption.
Oh man. Well, that joke's no skin off my back, but it might have been the skin off Neil and Evans if they had been slaves.
That's true. That's true. That would have been a tough role for them to play, I think.
Yes.
I don't think they could have gotten into character for that.
Challenging role of their lives.
Womp. Anyway, Baldur goes back down the mountain, and after an uneventful day, again, pacing around his camp, Roran wakes up coughing from smoke inhalation, seeing that Carvahal's giant hay barn is on fire.
Oh no, not the hay barn.
Listen, Roran has some like serious thoughts about this. He's like, oh my God, our livelihood, like the only way that town can sustain itself through like winter.
Yeah.
He's very concerned about this.
Yes.
The hay barn. Roran watches as 2 more houses catch fire, and he's just feeling like the Razak have done this to punish him, and he really feels responsible here for the destruction.
Yeah, something is definitely amiss at the crick. You know what I mean?
Correct. By the next morning, the fires have just burned themselves out, and the next night, Albrecht comes to bring Roran back to town. Roran's nervous here. He's like, the villagers are going to turn me in. I've caused enough trouble, like clearly death, destruction, cannibalism.
Makes total sense.
Yes, but Albrecht actually explains that the soldiers drunkenly started the fire, and the Razak are refusing to hold them accountable, and the whole village feels ready to forcibly remove this imperial scum. Like they're gonna stand up and they're gonna fucking do it. So
I know I've always been against the Empire, but this really boils my blood.
Oh, good, Dane. I'm glad.
I'm really upset about this.
Way to be on the right side of history here.
I always am.
Ooh.
Works out.
I wouldn't go that far. But Albrecht rightly is like, Roran, we can't do it without you. If we're gonna like oust them, we are gonna need your help. So Roran sneaks back into town to meet with what seems like a newly like minted rebel coalition at Horst's Forge. The group of men won't sit by and let the Empire kill and set fires with impunity. They're just like, fuck that, dude. Ain't we got rights?
Yeah,
it's kind of the vibe I get.
It's definitely what's going on here.
Yes, and as we wrap the chapter, they resolve to fortify the town and fight the Empire.
Hell fucking
Let's
yeah.
do it.
Let's do this. And that takes us to chapter 12, retaliation.
Yes.
Oh, dude, I'm so happy here. Things are turning up, and Roran decides, this is so cool. Roran decides his weapon of choice in this retaliation is going to be a hammer, like the hero of his favorite childhood stories.
It is kind of cute. I mean, for me, at least, it gives a little bit of a like connect to the fact that Roran's not really that old.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know he's a man in Carvajal, and like he definitely is acting like a man and taking decisive action. An adult.
Yes.
I mean by man, but like here I'm like, oh, he's still kind of a little baby. He's like, I should be like my storybook hero. It'd be cool.
So cool. I love it. He grabs a blacksmith hammer.
It's dope.
He's like, that I can bash people's heads in with. It's freaking dope.
He's not wrong.
It's very Parinabara from the Wheel of Time here.
Yeah.
The 10 villagers grab knives, pitchforks, classic, and other random weapons, and they ambush the soldiers in their tents, like while they're sleeping.
Yes.
Led by Horst.
Nighttime tent ambush with pitchforks.
I know. And Roran just wrecks a dude.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, right away.
Yeah, like right away. He hits the soldier's shoulders, rib, and helmet, breaks a bow, and just kills.
Yes.
Roran was born to kill.
Yes, he's savage here.
Yeah, he's like a berserker.
Yes.
During this fight, there's a funny passage of some of the other villagers.
Yeah.
It goes, Loring dances past, cackling and hooting in the night as he jabbed the soldiers with the pitchfork. These villagers are nuts.
No, they're insane. They have a lot of, it seems like they got a lot of pent up rage, Dane.
Maybe this is why Aragon was a bladesmith after or blade master after 4 months.
They've all just had like their violent urges simmering down deep below, waiting to emerge.
What's going on with this village?
I don't know, something in the water in Carvajal. I'm a little worried.
Horst's son Baldur untethers the horses because he's smart And the
Yes.
soldiers run not knowing what is up, and the horses are running, so they're like freaking out. It's a lot of
Yes.
chaos, lots of people
Yes.
screaming, they're being attacked.
It's a pretty good ambush. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty well planned, well thought out. Like,
Yeah.
they're my favorite thing, competent.
Yeah, this is competent warfare at its best.
Yes, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
This is a good D&D group.
Yes, this is a
Not
good
similar to my D&D group.
Very true. The Razak join the soldiers, but ultimately it isn't enough, and the Gabatorix agents are routed.
Impressive.
Yeah, Nulfervel, which is Quimby's son.
Okay.
By the
guy-
way,
the
we've
guy who
met-
done got it.
Yeah, by the way, we've met Roran, Horst, Baldur, Garrow, Sloane, Aragon, Roran, and now we have Nulfervel.
Yes, I do think you said Roran twice.
Did I? Well, that
You love
he
him.
deserves it. He deserves to be said twice. But Norfolkville, I don't know. Anyway, Quimby's son is stabbing a dead soldier over and over again after this battle.
Yes.
It is very notable because nobody stops him.
No.
And like,
What is he, like 11 or 12?
I think
He's
supposed to be like
very
13,
young.
but he is like, he's not a man, that's for
No.
sure. And so, in fact, Horse even says that it's right, which is a little strange.
It's like his right
Yeah.
as Quimby's son to
Like-
exact his
But
revenge.
the guy's already. Anyway,
I think
guess-
that's what's in the water in Carvajal is revenge plot.
Yeah, they love revenge.
Yes, almost as much as you.
Maybe a little more. Roran immediately knows it's on now because the king is just not going to let this go.
Mm-hmm.
And these villagers like killed soldiers. They're not going to be left without a punishment. It's not a good situation.
Mm-hmm.
The town comes out and there's an impromptu like in the streets town hall.
Yes.
The other villagers are rightly upset with what this relatively small group did and
Yeah.
kind of decided for the entire village.
Makes sense.
And like having to make them all pay for it. Sloane, of course, comes out and wants to give Roran up right away.
Shock.
Yeah.
That guy seems so nice.
Yeah. And Horse says, nah, bruh, it's not happening.
Good.
Horse also explains that now that they've attacked, they're kind of all doomed, regardless of what they do with Roran. It's kind of like past a Roran situation now.
Yes, that's why everybody's pissed.
Right. And Roran makes a really stirring speech about the murders, the fire, what happened to his dad, and Aragon being run out of town. And basically,
Yes.
he rallies the village into getting the town prepared for combat.
Dope.
He gives like a rousing speech.
Yes.
Yeah. Amongst the chaos, Rowan and Katrina have a really nice love chat.
Oh,
They just like,
there's no romantic time like a pitchfork mob.
this actually might be the most romantic time. You know, like all the, like throughout all the wars through history, we have like notes like said back and forth. Most people get married right before war.
Okay, I'm getting big like the kiss photo vibes from World War II. That's
Yes.
fair.
Yes, exactly. Doesn't the Notebook have like war involved in it somehow? Or is that the wrong? Is that the wrong book? Is that the wrong movie? It's a deep cuts.
That's a deep cuts.
That's older than the Heroes
Somehow-
reference we made earlier.
That's true. Somehow I think you're better versed on the Notebook than I am. Cannot quite recall.
I don't know, but it feels Notebooky here.
Yes.
There's love in the air.
I do think I think one of her love interests goes to
I think
the wall.
I think it goes to the wall.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Razak come and light a wagon on fire with Seether oil. It freaking explodes. They come in and they just start hacking people up.
I love that the Seether oil's back. They've not learned their lesson from Follow the Money
No,
in
they were
book
like,
one.
find us, we'll take you out. The soldiers
Fair.
follow like after the Razak. They start killing people left and right.
Crazy.
And this is really the Razak we have grown to love.
Is it?
Well, because like it just seemed strange to me when I first read this chapter as a kid. I was like, what, are they like scary monsters? But they like blow shit up and they just start leading a crazy situation. But Roran jumps into the fight and is just like so fucking good somehow.
Amped, dude.
I know. He rallies all the people to him. The men of the town jump in and the kids and women throw rocks. The Razak.
Crazy, dude.
Yeah, the Razak rightfully tell the soldiers to fight on. They're just people.
Yeah.
But Roran is smart. He knows a controlled pushback with the numbers will win the day.
Okay.
So if he can keep the villagers' bravery up, there's no way these guys can outnumber them. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So the Razak try their magic stare at Roran, but he is saved by Bridget, and it doesn't work.
Okay. I thought the Care Bear stare was foolproof. I did not think that you could like escape the wiles, the like deep gut level fear of the Care Bear stare.
That might be true of a normal man, but not of Roran.
Roran Garrison.
Yeah, no, Roran Garrison, don't be because his dad was always staring at him slowly chewing,
He's had years of practice for the Razak's magical fear stare.
This is what the training is for. Yeah, so
I think finally I'm understanding why Garrow's character was written this way. He was just trying to prepare his baby boys for the horrors of this world.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Well, at least there's some explanation for it, even if it's kooky.
Finally, justice for Garrow.
That's canon.
So finally the battle ends. Soldiers run off. 9 villagers have been killed.
Crazy.
The Razak leave with some parting words. And some
Nice stuff.
Unsurprisingly, it's not nice. The village can turn Roran over, and they will only be turned into slaves as punishment for fighting the Empire.
That's not a great bargain, I don't think.
Oh, well, it gets better. Or
good.
they can resist, and the Razak will come back, and they will eat them all.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. So it's...
That's worse, I get. One of those things is worse than the other.
Slavery or being eaten.
Well,
I think both are very bad.
Of course. Would you rather, Dane?
Oh, I'm not playing this
Slavery or
game.
eaten alive?
I'm not
I guess I will let you off that hook for the time being.
Well, do you want to answer? You could go first.
Well, I was about to. I was going to be brave.
Okay,
Dane.
be brave.
Well, I was going to say, if it's a they kill you and then eat you situation, I think I'm taking that over being enslaved to horrific, eldritch creatures that are cannibals.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Way to be brave.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's next?
Next, we have chapter 13.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
The name of the chapter, Dane?
Yeah. Just chapter 13.
As Swelden Rock Anhuin.
Yeah.
Anhuin.
I think it's As Swelden Rak Anowin.
That's what I said.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. After all the excitement with Roran's plot line, I was ready to stay in his POV for a while longer, but this chapter opens as Aragon and his Ellesmere entourage finally emerge from the mountains into the sunlight. So we're flashing back a little bit.
I like it.
It is fun though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit of a adrenaline, like puncture a balloon and let all the steam out.
But it's kind of nice. The last time we got a beautiful situation like this, it was like Lake Leona by Leona, and we know how that ended. So
really well. Aragon is really trying to figure out how to shoot a shot with Arya as they're continuing to travel.
Yeah.
He's pulling out all his best moves here. He's asking her about her diet and he's staring at her. And I don't know what woman wouldn't be into that. I mean,
full-proof plan.
He's like, what's everything you eat in a day? Like, ugh.
Just like walk me through your calorie
I know
intake.
that's a genre on TikTok, but we don't do that shit in real life, you weirdo. Anyway, he gets a reprieve from his love sickness, which is great because they've made it to the dwarven city of Tarnak. I got all the best words here.
Yeah.
Yes. So the city is terraced on a mountainside above a lake at the entrance to the subterranean tunnels, which is fucking cool.
That's cool.
I do feel like maybe in terms of like Lake Leona being kind of the Lake Como of Alagasia.
Yeah.
This is feeling more like Lake Tahoe vibes to me, like mountain lake.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love a good Lake Tahoe trip.
Yeah, so there's farms, houses, shops, all leading up to a giant domed temple called Selbadil at the peak of this like terraced city. So everything's cut in and there's different stuff level by level. It's very cool. It's the dwarves' greatest temple and the home of the dwarven clan that acts as like religious servants. It's like a priest clan essentially.
Gotcha.
And I really like in this chapter we get a little nod to like how archetypal the dwarves in the series are. Aragon's kind of acting in our stead here when he's surprised to learn the dwarves have any above ground cities, because otherwise it's just like straight up Lord of the Rings.
It's also like pointing out that he didn't listen to Ulrich very well.
Yes, of course.
Ulrich was like, I literally talked about this.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's a little bit of Christopher Paolini being like, yes, I see how I went to Lord of the Rings up front, but like Ulrich tells Aragon that the dwarves have only re-inhabited a few of their above ground cities in recent years, since Galbatorix has become more reclusive, which I think is kind of interesting. It seems like during Galbatorix's coup, he would like fly around and just like torch
and like terrify
just
people.
like flame up the dwarven cities when he would see them. So they retreated into the mountains, but now they're kind of coming back out.
Yeah, because we had heard that Galbatorix like literally does not leave Urobane. That was the big deal when he went to see Marcus Tabor. It was like he never leaves.
Yes, exactly. Right. Ulrich also, before they get into the very religious city, Ulrich warns Aragon that Arya apparently has a history of fighting with the priest clan, as the elves are evidently atheists. So she's a combative atheist, which is just the best kind of person.
She gets better and better the more we learn about her.
So the party is checked by a dwarven guard sitting on a massive, like, bearded mountain goat called a Feuds, and he allows them all to pass.
Yeah.
And Oric explains that Durgrimst Feuds is named after that type of animal, and that they're considered the bravest and the most revered of all the clans because the dwarves rely really heavily on those animals. They are able to trek them up and down the mountains at will. Like,
So
they're very,
cool.
yeah, they're really cool. They're able to, like, pick their way up and down the rocky slopes. They, I think, give the dwarves, I know, milk and cheese, and, like, they're kind of the only domestic animals it feels like the dwarves have.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like that.
Which is kind of cool.
When they use all these cool, like, they kind of feel like dire animals to me. There's like 5 of them or 6 of them.
Yes, yeah. The mountains have like 5 species of native only to the Bjorn Mountains. And there's a clan named after each one, which is kind of cool.
It's so cool.
Yes. Saphira hears all of this and she just wants to eat them. She's like, they're going to make great hunting. And Eragon's like, calm down.
He's like, please don't.
He's like, ho, sit down.
Please don't.
They're very respected. I wish you wouldn't.
They revere them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So from the first guard, an escort party comes to lead them into the city itself. The city is so cool. It's all dwarven sized, unlike Trondheim, which has some human sized like aspects to it. This city is like dwarves only. Everybody else get out.
So cool.
Yes. And despite its like beefy exterior walls, the city's buildings are like delicately and intricately carved out of like many brightly colored stones. All the dwarves are dressed to represent their different clans here. So it seems like maybe more of a melting pot of clans in this city because it's their like major religious mecca. And like, it's so cool.
It is very cool.
As their procession continues through the streets, Eragon gets his hackles up a little bit when he realizes that the dwarves seem like a little outraged and hostile when they catch the symbol of Durgrimst in Jedum on his helm.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, this guy's gotten used to like a rousing standing ovation processional very quickly. It happened one time and already he's like, well, why isn't everybody just
aren't you all
clapping for me?
Aren't you all supposed to love me universally?
Yes. He does it, to his credit. He has the thought like, wow, how quickly I just expect adoration everywhere. So he's like, damn, I'm kind of an asshole. I like that.
At least he's
that.
aware, right?
Yes, exactly. So all this rises to a fever pitch when they approach Selbadil, the temple at the top, and they're confronted by a group of dwarves in purple veils at the temple's gates. And this is a scene that like really gets tense, basically because Hrothgar broke tradition and adopted a human into a dwarven clan, this clan that's coming out to confront him, called As Swelden Rock Anhuin, has declared a blood feud with Eragon.
Yeah.
It gets wild. Like
they're described really cool though.
They are, with their like purple veils over their faces to declare the blood feud. Basically the lead dwarf of this clan who comes into the street for the confrontation like yells in dwarven back and forth for a while with their lead guide, and then he takes out a ring, plucks out one of his beard hairs, entwines it in the ring and throws it at Eragon's feet. And I think he spits at him too.
That's insane.
It's crazy. It's very, very cool.
These Nurla are really off the rockers right now.
A little bit. I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm like, ooh, I want to know more about that. That seems very intense. But there's no time to dwell on it, per usual. Our crew enters the temple to be greeted by the clan chief who rules in Tarnak. His name is Undin. And the chief of the priest clan we were talking about, his name is Ganel.
Okay.
They need to sidebar about the whole blood feud thing real quick. I saw what happened. That's very bad. We're going to need to welcome revered guests. We need a minute.
For some reason, I'm picturing like a dwarf with like a clipboard who's like supposed to take them around. And he's like, I didn't plan for this.
Yes, exactly. The party planner is... as a wedding planner, I am like having a visceral like
okay,
problem.
blood food never worked with a blood feud, but we'll see how we'll keep rolling.
Do it. Let me talk to the caterer and see if they can hold dinner by a little bit. My mirror neurons are just on high alert in this situation. But the two chiefs sidebar, and Eragon has to get ready for the feast that they're going to give in his honor that night. Eragon is very unsettled by the events of the day, which like, duh.
Okay, makes makes sense.
But he still gets himself all pretty and ready to grub down. The food here sounds amazing. I think it talks about having like a root vegetable and venison stew.
Nice.
Which I love this. There's mushrooms everywhere. There's like double digits of mushroom dishes. It's like
so cool.
Yes, I kind of think of like Bubba Gump from Forrest Gump and all the types of shrimp. That's kind of the description of all these mushrooms.
Yeah.
There's a roasted dire hog, which is dope.
So cool.
Yes. Undin also bars the gates to the temple and sets extra guards for the feast, which is kind of him acknowledging the possibility of being attacked while they like host their guest.
Nothing to worry about.
It's
Just
crazy, dude. As the meal winds down, Aragon provokes Undin to explain like what is going on with this blood feud.
Yeah.
He's kind of rude about it.
Well, I think he's worried and feeling he's being left out. It does make sense. He is rude for sure.
The way he poses the question,
Yeah.
like he's trying to incense the dwarf a little
It's
bit
a little
and like
weird.
make him angry. I think because maybe because he feels he's being blamed for it, and he's like, well, why don't you tell me what's going on then if it's such a big deal?
Yeah, he's gonna feel real goofy after he learns why.
Yes. So Undin explains that the clan who threw the ring at Aragon descends from an ancient, rich, and powerful dwarven family that threw their support behind Vrail, the lead rider, in the war against Galbatorix. They sent their fiercest warriors to fight almost their entire clan or the entire family, excuse me, not a clan yet. So the family sent their fiercest warriors to support Vrail and the riders against Galbatorix and the Forsworn, and Gal slaughtered them alongside all the riders at Urubane
Oh no.
in the fighting there. The only member to survive, it's the family's matriarch named Anuin,
Okay.
and she and her guards survived the battle and she died of grief later. She was heartbroken
no.
over the loss of the rest of her family's warriors, and her guardsmen who had taken her out of the city named the Ruin family. They made it a clan and named it the Tears of Anuin. That's what Oz Swelden Rock Anuin means.
That's really cool.
Sad.
I really like this clan.
And as they formed the clan, named it that, they pledged themselves against all riders.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And that's the backstory.
Right.
And when Aragon shows up into this quagmire, he's wearing the mark of the Ingeedum clan, claiming that he's a dwarf, essentially. And these people are like, absolutely not. Like, it really does make sense.
They're like, we already didn't like you, but this is super rude.
It's a very awkward dinner party moment, I will say that. Aragon really is appropriately chastised by the story, which is good. It's a good recovery from him. He shows like a really appropriate level of like respect and regret for having asked the question the way he did. He recovers all right.
Pretty
I'll
instantly.
say.
He's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I understand why they hate me.
Yes. And he's like, I'm so sorry for like coming in here, coming in hot, and then asking you about this like painful piece of your history.
Yeah.
And the chapter closes with Aragon feeling this shame and then sidebarring with Saphira, like at the end of the dinner, about how much danger they're in
He's
the
learning.
city. Yes. He's like, it seems like the possibility of a physical attack is real.
Very imminent.
Yes, exactly.
It really feels that way. And, and that takes us to chapter 14, Selbadil. Aragon has to stay safe as he is in danger due to what we just talked about.
Yes.
We learned a blood feud can last about 100 years.
Not great. I mean, Aragon's immortal-ish, so
what's that? It's a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Not great, though.
No.
Good for us, though, because he gets to go to the Dwarven Temple.
Right, because they're like, you could stay in the city, but
Maybe let's
don't be out in the streets, my guy.
Don't go like from place to place.
Keep a low profile. Come in this temple, though. Very cool, where you already are.
Don't go to a second location.
Never go to a second location.
Yeah, I love this stuff. This place sounds awesome. Also, the priest starts by pouring some brews, and that is my type of church. That's my type.
That's great.
My type of church, man. No, I would love to walk around with this place drinking.
Yes.
It has gems all over the walls, gold inlay, jade statues out of rock of all sorts of monsters and dwarves. I mean, the priest.
Nobody does it like the dwarves do. The settings are bar none.
So cool. The priest Ganel that will show him around is in the middle of sparring practice with spears with swords on top.
Yes.
Called Huthvern.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like a staff sword thing.
Yes, I like it.
He has to keep what he learned secret when he gets this tour.
Okay.
So Sweaty Gannel walks up, and he's like, as we do this, you got to keep it pretty hush hush.
I do love a guy who finishes vigorous exercise and is like, toss me a broom, my guy. Let me show you around my temple, tell you about God.
Yeah, so he gets to learn to be a good dwarf because all this stuff's kind of secret stuff.
Yes, I like it.
Yeah, so we learn a lot here about the dwarven religion that I'm not going to go into here in this section.
Oh, cool.
Because I have to gather it all in one place and put it in the deep dive.
Amazing. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a fun one. One of the things that stand out that I can cover in this chapter summary is the use of coral from the ocean
Yes.
as proof that rocks and stones grow and are alive like plants.
That's a bit of a leap in logic, I would say.
It is very convincing to Aragon. Aragon thinks that this explains how the rocks kept showing up in his farm.
Yes, he's like, I remember in the field as a boy, you would hoe and there'd be rocks, and the next season you would hoe and there'd be more rocks. So it must have been this.
They were growing with
Love
the beans.
this guy. My guy.
Come on, dude. Sweet summer child, Aragon. It's so funny. Aragon learns about the gods and about Helsvog, the god of stone that made the dwarves. Because Helsvog and the dwarves being his creation, the dwarves need to religiously be buried in stone.
Oh, so that's when we were talking about that's the most important hallmark of their funeral, right?
Apparently, it is very important, and they're telling it to Aragon because it's Aragon's responsibility as an important dwarf to make sure that the dwarves who die under his command are buried in stone properly.
Damn.
If he does not do this, Hrothgar will exile him as his custom, and the dwarves will shun him. So
that's crazy.
Super important.
I mean, the dwarves are seeming so cool and well fleshed out to me here. They have very important and I feel well-founded traditions.
Yeah.
Rock coral situation aside, everything seems to make sense to me.
I mean, and who knows? Maybe Christopher Paolini changed some stuff. With the coral and the rock and probably not, but
no.
Who knows?
No, coral's just a living thing.
Yeah, no, I know. Dane knows.
Great.
I'm just saying, there's dragons. Maybe it's different here. I don't know. Aragon is also given a gift by the priest Gannel. Gannel says he was asked to give this by Hrothgar. It's a magic necklace.
Yes.
Yeah. Dude, Hrothgar has all the best gifts.
I know.
Aragon is definitely leveling up as he's got a magic item.
I was just gonna say, are we hitting a new D&D level here? His character is bumping up.
Yeah, he's got experience. He's sleeping the night in a safe place, kind of, and it's a total D&D moment.
Safe enough. The gate's locked.
I mean, in order to fight all of that clan, he has to level up first.
That's true. That makes sense.
Or else the CR will be too high.
Oh my
and
God.
all of these deep cut D&D jokes are for you guys if you're listening.
Are they deep cuts? If I know about them.
CR level's pretty deep cut. Anyway, it is designed like a small silver hammer on a silver chain, and I assume it looks like the clan symbol.
Okay.
On it, the dwarves' runes say Ostim Hefithin.
Nailed it.
I nailed it.
There is no way to know.
I don't think that's right, but it meaning sight guard.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked it up.
Oh, good job.
Pretty cool. Reminds me a lot of Thor's hammer and the necklace of the Norse hammer that are supposed to protect you if you wear them. Wonder if this is where Paolini, he gets a lot of Norse stuff from them.
Yeah.
It's all over this book is Norse stuff.
Yes.
So I think this is
that makes sense.
What that is. It stops other magic users from scrying Aragon and Saphira.
Super cool.
Yeah, the strength.
Very, very useful, I think.
Oh, dude. So I was like, finally, you would definitely need this.
Yeah.
The strength of the magic comes from Aragon himself.
Okay.
So he does have to be aware of it, but it won't take his energy if he falls asleep. It'll wake him up.
Okay.
So
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah.
I'd be dead. Along with many other reasons I'd be dead in this world because I am dumb and ill-equipped, but for sure this.
Believe in yourself. You might be like Rorid. You just need to lose everything.
I just need to lose everything, drink the violent water of Carvajal, and
go for revenge.
Yes, I too could bash in somebody's skull with a hammer.
Yeah.
Great.
Near the end of the tour, there's a huge marble and enamel carving in the history of Alagasia and the history of the dwarves. I love this.
Yes.
This marble and enamel colored carving takes extra time. So you could paint this, but they want it to last thousands of years.
Okay.
So they use enamel instead of paint.
Okay.
So that it will last that long.
That's
so they have to
pretty
keep
cool.
updating it.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. It doesn't fade. The dwarves build Fort Tough. Yeah.
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah. Aragon gets a good overview of the dwarven history. Notably, he sees Aragon the first rider in really good detail as the original Aragon. And we
That's
learned
cool.
the Aragon he sees sat for the artist that made the marble and enamel carving.
Oh, shit.
So it looks exactly like him.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The dwarves are old as hell.
Old as hell. So Aragon was young, like our Aragon.
Okay.
So Aragon the First was young.
Yes.
Like our Aragon, but looked completely different. They don't look at all the same.
See, this is where it would behoove us to run it back and call him Kevin.
Yeah, exactly.
Aragon looks like Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. And Aragon thinks that they're brothers through time.
Oh, it's nice.
It's very nice. So then Arya comes. She crashes the party.
Yeah.
And I have to say that she has kind of been on my nerves in this book so far. Last book, she just like laid around and was just like hot, you know, and not passed out for like 90% of the book. And again, it wasn't her fault, but also, you know, that's all we knew of her. This book, she has so far yelled at Aragon for not being more politically savvy.
Yes.
She's errantly been vegetarian. She's told Aragon he'll only get it once his training's complete about the vegetarianism.
Yes.
She pointedly ignored Aragon while they traveled, like when they left. She was
Yeah.
like, okay, come. And, she told him he doesn't understand the bond she's never had and that he has. A lot of elf-splaining in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now she comes in and she's going to talk some crap about religion to the priest. And I just mean, I'm just not like, it's hard to like someone so far like this. I'm sure there's a redemption arc here, but it is rough. Arya goes so far in this attack to insinuate that the priest and his clan are only religious or use religion for material gain to his face, unprovoked.
Not great.
Kind of wild.
Not great.
Yeah. She says the money could be used for the homeless and hungry or the war effort. I mean, they are like recording history through like these beautiful paintings. That does have value. I mean, I don't know. So anyways, this guy is super nice about it, if forceful. And most of his thoughts are based in his beliefs.
Yeah.
Which I think is supposed to be written as untrue so that Arya is like being rude and mean is right. It's an odd choice from a writing perspective with Chris Paolini.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't come across that way, even though he's writing it that way.
Yeah.
I find it a little strange. I'm not religious at all here in real life, but even still, I would be a little irritated if one of my friends did what she did and I was with her. Going into a church and provoking the clergy intentionally not only does not look good, like it's for her, but it's just bad form for Aragon.
Yeah. I would say it's a tough look. I don't know if he's trying to say something about like the elves and like what their belief system is like to the extent it exists, or like
I think he is trying to explain the elves through this like conflict with the dwarfs.
Yeah.
But I think it ultimately just makes Arya in this situation. I feel like most people would be like, I don't understand the need for this.
Yeah, I definitely have like in your laundry list of things you don't like about Arya.
Yeah.
I have some ideas about why she may have done some of those things. Like some of it seems justifiable to an extent for me personally, but like this is a thing, and maybe it's just because there's such like a very concrete connection to like the people you might know in real life who are atheists who are just like very loud and proud about, like just very strong in their convictions to the extent that they like seek out fights with religious people and like want to convert them to atheism.
Sure.
I guess I just don't like a lot of proselytizing in any scenario. I'm also not religious, so I don't love it when religious people are like, let me convert you. You're wrong and going to hell. Like, not a tough look for them.
Right.
Same with atheists. And I think there's a good stereotype about atheists, like
doing
maybe
exactly
not good,
this.
but like, it's definitely a pervasive idea that atheists do this thing all the time to the extent it's like annoying.
Yeah. I mean, they're not, I mean, and also it doesn't seem like this is limiting any like other people's like beliefs or like, it doesn't seem like a limiting religion with what we know here.
Yeah.
So it's also like, if you don't believe it, just don't worship it.
Yeah.
It's just a weird choice for me here. Arya says that they have to head out as their new enemy has stoked a part of the city against him.
Eek.
Not good.
Yes.
Hrothgar really stirred up some shit.
Yes.
You know?
By adopting Aragon, he poked the hornet's nest a little bit.
It's not great.
Yeah, well, by adopting Aragon and then sending him to this city with this clan in it.
Have fun.
Interesting.
It's a weird choice, but I think he knew it was going to happen. My thing on Hrothgar is we actually might be seeing a little bit about Hrothgar. He's like, let's just approach this from the beginning. No surprises.
Face it head on.
Head on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Aragon kits himself out and sits with his 50 dwarfs waiting to see if he can get to the raft.
It's tense, dude.
Yeah, he puts on all of his stuff. I mean, he doesn't walk around with all his armor and stuff on.
Yeah.
So he's like kid it out. It's pretty crazy. Arya and Aragon chat. She is dodgy again and vague. We learn her family is upset with her because of her job with the egg. To her defense, by the way, I don't think it's at all weird that she's a little like vague with Aragon.
Yeah.
He's a weird teen, but it also just doesn't help. You know what I mean? So we also learn that like most families, hers didn't like her tattoo.
Yes.
I really feel this is where me and Arya, I
get it, girl.
Yeah.
Her family hates her tattoo, hates her job.
Yeah. So
hates her friends.
Exactly. So, which for an elf signals her dedication to her race, the symbol that she got tattooed on her, and her desire to provide service to them. So she's, really into public service.
Elf pride.
Yeah. That might be okay. We'll just keep going. I'm not touching that.
I love to fluster you.
Yeah, I'm not touching that one. They haven't talked to her for 70 years, it seems.
Crazy.
Quite the grudge. And maybe they don't. Maybe she's actually is rude. Maybe we're learning something about her.
You think her family hates her because she's...
70 years is a long time for such a, giving elf to her people. I don't know. Maybe it's something else.
Well, if they're kind of immortal, 70 years is nothing.
A blink of an eye.
Yeah, maybe they don't care.
Arya tells Aragon of her two dead friends from the prologue in the first book.
Oh, right.
And Aragon asks why she doesn't like Ganel, and she like touches Aragon's arms and says that they'll talk about that another time.
She's like, sir, that's enough questions. Aragon's used to this, though. Brom used to do this shit all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Aragon would ask 5 questions, and on the 6th question, Brom would be like,
enough.
That's fine.
Yeah, we're done.
We're done here.
Yeah. Eventually, early in the morning, surrounded by 50 dwarves.
Crazy.
And with cloth over hooves of the horses, claws of Saphira, and weapons, they sneak out to the lake.
It's super cool.
So nothing clangs.
Yeah, I like it.
So they get to their rafts and get away without much trouble. And that is where this episode wraps.
I love it.
The episode's chapter summaries wrap.
Yes, that's true. We still have to talk about, namely,
You have to break down some stuff.
my analysis.
Yeah.
It's time for analysis.
I like that as we're getting back into Roran's storyline in this episode, the theme in this section feels like a good continuation of what we talked about last time when we were only with Aragon, the ways that your identity dictates your values.
Yeah.
So for Roran here, we've got the way like our OG father, uncle, Garrow has emphasized responsibilities that a man has for his family and his community.
Yeah.
It was one of the last things, actually, if not the last thing Garrow said to Roran.
I think so.
Yes. And we definitely got a weirdly written, but kind of full picture of Garrow as like a salt of the earth, like take care of your own.
Yeah.
Like stereotypical farmer kind of a character. So I think this value system definitely makes sense to me.
Yeah, me
for
too.
Garrow to have given Roran. But I think as an identity for Roran, it definitely is burdening him with how to figure out how guilty he should be, I think.
Yeah.
With what's happening with the Razak. I think in the first book, we kind of saw Aragon have the same struggle with responsibility and guilt over Garrow's death, over Brom's death, over whatever like misplaced responsibility he felt for Arya in the first book.
Which was like all consuming.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He felt responsible certainly for Saphira, for Murtagh at points.
Yeah.
Yes. So you see Aragon definitely work through that in the first book, and now we're definitely getting it with Roran. I think with Roran, it's more the preoccupation with whether all the fallout and like deaths from the Razak being in town can be laid at his feet, essentially. That's his, like, my identity as a member of this community is burdening me with this guilt, with this responsibility.
Yeah.
And I like how real it feels that this would lead right into his drive to stand up and protect the town. Like he starts taking charge a little bit, I think, here.
Yeah.
They don't feel like they can go and attack the soldiers' camp without getting Roran out of the mountains. They're
like, well, we need the guy who caused all this or started it at least.
Well, and they don't do it to turn him in or,
No.
They're just like, oh, Roran's going to have to play a part in this. And it's not really explained, which I think is an interesting choice. I think to me, it kind of shows that he's so integral to whatever this like going on is going to be, which is odd because his family's like
10 miles?
10 miles outside of town. They're like, it's not like they're rich. It's not like they're mayors.
I'm getting the impression that like what this is indicating, especially like the relationship with Horse, who seems to be like the more wealthy of guy.
Yes.
Like, how Garrow had dinner with them on the traders thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting the impression maybe that like Guerrero was well respected
Yeah.
in Carvajal.
I think so too, and his sons are. I think for as far as Roran goes and his identity, I think a lot of times it's maybe shown to us through the way the characters around him treat him.
Yeah.
And then as far as the burden of it goes, I love that we have his introspection and his like internal constant monologue, just like grappling with these choices.
Yeah.
And I think that writing choice really leans into an exploration of identities and values and burdens. I mean, if you'll notice, I mean, just as a bare breakdown of percentages, how much of Roran's POV chapters we spend in that internal monologue. I think we're really trying to point something out here that like he's always in his head and he's always pondering these big questions.
He's going through things often. He's not a guy who just like, we'll think about it tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the rest of this section as well, when we kind of switch gears and focus in on the dwarves, I think that like the focus on identity through the last several chapters lends itself naturally to world building. Like I think we're kind of demonstrating identities in the way Christopher Paolini is doing so much world building here.
Yes.
I kind of consider the focus on these like larger than life settings and descriptions throughout these identity driven sections. Like those things feel very connected to me, the way the language is epic in scale and like the identities that are born out of it are these like rich, layered, nuanced cultures. You get the sense that it's grand in scale because it's been there so long and it's really like ingrained in this culture what their identities are and what they mean to each other.
Yeah, everything's very old. Everything seems to have a story connected to it.
Yes, exactly. And as we've learned more about the dwarves and the burdens that their identity kind of puts on them, which was the last episode, that whole shattering of Isidar Mithram and the way it like really shook them to their core. Like the natural conclusion, I kind of feel like, of that arc is in this section when their identity and their values lead to outright conflict. You know what I mean? Like, what is your identity if it won't drive you to stand up for it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like how much does who you are and where you come from and your family and your life in your country, for lack of a better word, like affect your decision making and your values and what you'll do, like what'll piss you off, kind of.
Exactly, yeah. And for the most part, it's kind of positioned as Aragon learning about all these like disparate factions of dwarves, but we actually get a really good understanding of the different value systems in play in the dwarven clans. And I think for me, it's really written in a way where we get empathy for both sides of the conflict. And I think feeling something for characters, really understanding where they're coming from is a sign that they have a full and like rich identity, an identity that you like understand. It's clear, it's concrete, and you've connected to it. So I think it's really good because even like with the clan that declares a blood feud with Aragon, right away you're like, oh, I totally get it. And that's done through one backstory. Like
it's pretty good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yes, I would be a little remiss not to bring up Arya and her identity here as just a classic asshole atheist.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's a stereotype in our world.
Yes.
She's, whether intentionally or not, she's definitely being written that way in this section. Like I said, there are some other pieces of her actions so far that I can kind of understand through the lens of her identity. This is one that like seems a little at odds with the way the elves are usually described to be like calm and peaceful, and this seems like aggressive. This seems kind of outsized.
Well, with all the things, for me, one of the things that Arya talks about is that she helped Brom broker the deal with the egg.
Yes.
Implying that she is politically savvy and keeping that stuff going on.
Yes.
That she is good at understanding other people's needs and then for the good of everybody, working for them.
Yes.
And in this situation, and I think a few of the other ones, and I think that's where we disagree, but I feel like I don't really understand the savviness here. And it comes across, since we get very little from her, it comes across as short and kind of condescending.
Oh, for sure, condescending.
Well, the atheism, but even like the like, you don't understand the dragon bond, you don't understand vegetarianism, like there's or veganism or whatever. But like it just comes across altogether like, what are you trying to go with her? Because, like, for the average person, I don't think, they're not breaking it down like we're doing. But I think it's hard. I don't, like, in this moment, I don't think anyone would be like, my favorite character, Arya. It's just, like, hard to even know what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird choice.
I guess to me, the only thing I can really think is that it's maybe there's some blind spots for Christopher Paolini when it comes to Arya, and he's not necessarily picking up on the way some of this reads, and then the rest of it that's like either vague or not really fleshed out a lot.
Yeah.
I think maybe is just meant to like bring up an air of mystery where like she'll say something but then not explain it. I think maybe that's where you get the like condescending vibe, because she's like, well, this is what it is, and the way she says that might not be like aggressive or anything. It might be totally neutral, but then when Aragon's like, well, why? And she just like walks away, you're like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah, or it's like with nothing else, there's very few things right now that we can connect it to. So the only thing can go is like, I guess she's just kind of mean and cold. I don't know.
Cold for sure. I think like cold, aloof. And then I think maybe he's going for mysterious.
Yeah.
And I could kind of get that.
I could see that. I think it's a miss for me, but I think that's what he is intending.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And before we jump into your deep dive, aside from the theme of identity, I want to talk a little bit about how much I'm still liking this like multiple POV writing style
it's pretty
in
cool.
this book. Yes, I know we both already gushed about it in episode 1 of this season. I just want to mention it again here because it feels like Paolini is like changing up his tactic a little bit in a way. In this section, Roran's story is really fast-paced and action-packed, where Aragon's is mostly travel and world building.
Yeah.
So there's a stark difference. Aragon's section might get tense with the blood feud stuff, but it's a low simmer kind of tension. It's more behind the scenes, political drama tension. And for me, the contrast and way to use a big word, Jacqui. For me, the contrast and juxtaposition of the two really highlights how fundamentally different their experiences are. Even though they come from the same place, they're positioned as similar in a lot of ways. Their family, they have, like we talked about, coming from Garrow, a lot of the same values and act in a lot of similar ways.
Yeah.
I think the settings and their pacing and their plotting is really highlighting what the difference is in these characters so far. So for me, it's just a good and smart choice for the story structure itself to show and not tell about who Aragon and Roran are.
Oh, I totally agree. I think
I knew we could end on a agree note.
I think we agree on most things.
We do.
I think I totally agree with this, and I also think you're absolutely right. It's easier to read some of these conversations for chapters when they're, it's nice when you're bashing in soldiers on the other chapters.
You're like, oh, we're gonna swap back and forth, it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah.
So with that said, with the conversations, I know especially one of them, or maybe a couple of them in this chapter, you want to turn into your deep dive.
So this deep dive this week is we're gonna learn about the dwarven religion, and it is buckle up, because I took everything we learned and I just packaged it all in one go.
I'm so excited. This is a really well-built religion. I feel like it's very fun.
It's pretty cool. So the guy we learned the most about is Guerrilla. He is the main dude in the Dorian Pantheon, it seems. So think of your Zeus or your Odin type. So this is the big baller, the big papa, if you will.
Hopefully not Aragon's big papa. He'll be in danger.
Yeah, please no. So Guerrilla this dude is the king of the deities, warrior and scholar. He's a fickle god, which sounds like some classic like Greek, Norse, Egyptian gods to me. Yeah. Basically all the classics were kind of fickle. And I guess honestly the prophets and gods of the monotheistic gods are also fickle. But I digress. Guerrilla is so fickle though that they burn offerings to him at the solstices before sowing and at deaths and births.
A lot of burning.
Yeah, a lot of burning. Before battle, they pray to him as well.
Okay.
And I wonder why not before crafting or mining, as it seems really important to this race of people.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but maybe I just don't get Guerrilla. We learned some stories about him, and he sounds wild. So let's buckle up. Guerrilla is believed to have molded the land of Alagasia from the bones of a giant.
Wow.
Which is metal as hell.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Also the giant must have been one big dude if the land comes from him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And also, what is that guy's name? Because I bet he has a cool name and a cool story as well.
I will say all the dwarven gods' names, this like religion deep dive. I'm like, oh, the name's so good.
The names are pretty good. Guterra also gives the world its order. So I assume that what that means is that for the dwarves, he's the one that creates all the rules, the laws, physics, science, disease, and the stuff they just don't understand or can't explain with the knowledge and magic they have now. So he's made of someone who controls the universe. It's all
Very
Guterra's
cool.
plan,
Yes.
right? Guterra was born to a she-wolf and came out as a fully grown dwarf man. Metal as hell.
Yes.
Yeah. Guterra battled monsters and giants so his family could take over Algazia. And this guy is just a family man, you know? It's Vin Diesel confirmed to play him in Disney Plus show Family. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a special way to pray to Guterra. And if you know the words and gestures, you're a true dwarf, I guess, because they don't tell other people.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
and
only-
Aragon learns it in this
he
section.
knows the special signals and stuff.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
The secret Guterra handshake.
Exactly. So we also get some other gods. There's Kilf, which is Guterra's queen and the goddess of water. She's depicted in blue stone when Aragon sees her.
Okay.
She holds the coral that we talked about in the chapter
great.
summary. Yeah. And then there's, I think I'm saying this one wrong, right, Urur, but I don't know if that's right.
The god of rural jurors.
Yes. The master of the heavens and the air, and Morgothal, who is the god of fire, and they're bros.
Okay.
Okay.
They're the Aragon and Murtagh of gods.
Yes, the air and fire. Yes, exactly. They're also they're tight and they can't exist alone.
Okay.
So they're a package deal, kind of.
Great.
Morgothal is working all day in his burning palace in the sky.
Great.
I assume this is supposed to be like the sun or something. And sparks in the night sky at night from his forge. And I assume again that these are the stars.
So his whole palace is burning, or like he has a
That's
burning
his
forge in his
I think
palace?
I think like the sky is his palace and the sun is his forge.
Gotcha.
And then does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he hangs with his brother in the sky, but Uru feeds his fires, I assume, with air.
Oh,
You get what I'm saying?
Yes, as a person who understands how smithing works.
Yes, exactly. Very intricate.
I have a tenuous hold on that at best.
Then we get Sindri, Mother Earth. She doesn't get much here. The ladies get a little shafted here, to be honest.
Shocker.
I know. And I also don't know if they're hot or not, so I'm totally lost.
Shit.
Yeah.
Probably not if they don't get much.
Yeah, exactly. I hope Sindri. Anyway, Sindri should get more. She's freaking Mother Earth, for God's sakes. But
You mean
anyway.
for Guterra's sake.
Yeah, for Guterra's sake. Anyway, lastly but not least is Helsvog,
Yes.
the dwarf's favorite deity.
Yeah.
He created the dwarfs from the roots of a mountain.
Yes, very cool.
They love this dude for obvious reasons.
Yes.
And we get a
He's
bit-
their like second daddy.
He's their, yeah, I guess
He's not Big Papa.
he's their,
He's Little Papa.
he's their daddy uncle. not only did he make the dwarves, but he did so against the other gods' wishes.
Ooh.
So he really is like the dwarf
Drama.
daddy. Yeah. Guterra gets jealous of Helsvog creation,
Mm-hmm.
and so Guterra made the elves so that he could take over the world.
I love that their creation myth is like we were cursed with the elves as a punishment.
Kind of, yeah. And when Guterra did that, Sindri, who granted they don't say much about,
Yeah.
makes humans out of dirt.
We're really the ones getting shafted in the dwarven
We
mythology.
really are. We're the dirt goddess like people. Well, no one wants to be left out of the race making game, man.
That's fair. That's fair.
Not to be outdone, the god brothers Uru and Murgothal make the dragons.
the brothers who?
Yeah, Uru and Murgothal?
Urr.
Urur and Murgothal.
You are.
Yes.
How would you?
Urur, right?
That's
Okay, maybe
impossible.
it is Urur. Okay, I don't know. But they make the dragons
Yes.
so they can rule the sky. Only Kilf restrained herself. Obviously, she's above the pettiness of the other gods.
Water goddess.
Yes.
Just flowing like the river. Probably she has an ancient saying, something about don't go chasing waterfalls.
That's wonderful. That's great. This is why the dwarfs need to be buried in stone.
Yes.
They are not of the earth. They are not of the air or of fire.
Gotcha.
And thus cannot be burned or buried, or I guess catapulted into the air when they die. Yes.
A classic burial, right?
A classic. Happens all the time.
Whatever our friendship bet is about how I have to bury you, my funeral is strictly off limits for you. Do not plan it in any way, shape, or form.
I'm just saying I got to catapult
You
that.
and your catapults stay away.
Instead, they need to be buried in the element of their maker.
Gotcha.
Hellsvog.
Yes.
Hellsvog's a cool name.
They're all cool names.
Yes.
Even
I just
a bold
imagine
choice.
it's like, I'm Hellsvog, I'm Murgathal, I'm Guntera, Kilf, and Sindri.
And Morgothal. Don't forget Morgothal, his brother.
So cool.
Incredible stuff. Dane, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Again, the religion part of it in fantasy so often, I think these are really well fleshed out concepts, maybe because so many fantasy writers are inspired by different mythologies and religions.
Yeah.
So I really like this one in this book particularly. It makes me a little mad that Arya shits on it. She's a bit of what you might call a hater.
Oh, that was good.
I got you, dude.
Nice.
You're welcome.
That was so good.
I tried my best.
Thank you so much. What are the haters saying this week?
Actually, you should do your research, huh? Have you even read it? How you pronounce it?
What are the haters saying?
There's an index in the back, right?
this is horribly derivative.
Let's dive into it.
Yes.
The way Christopher Paolini wrote Aragon, learning about religion, makes it seem a little bit like Aragon has no religion of his own.
Okay.
So in the first book, Aragon does yell to the heavens several times. He learns about spirits.
Mm-hmm.
He gives blessings. He also
Yes.
receives a few.
Yes.
Traditionally, all those things are grounded in religion.
Yeah.
What is weird here is either the people of his culture from Carvajal
Mm-hmm.
don't have any religious beliefs, or Aragon does not believe them. If he does have religious beliefs, they don't at all conflict with Aragon's, because he never disagrees in his mind or says, oh, that's different than my origin story when he's in this temple.
Yes.
And you don't notice this until someone points it out.
I was just gonna say that's a good point.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna go on before I talk about the why that's not great.
Okay.
But also in the religious section, Christopher Paolini is very clearly in love with the elves. I think this is what we're kind of seeing.
Yeah.
Aragon is slowly becoming one.
Uh-huh.
He's going to them to seek wisdom.
Yes.
Arya has been, like, while she's been mean to the dwarfs, it's framed by the narration as okay.
Yes.
And it's all kind of strange because it makes it feel like the elves are flat and not cooler because everything about them is framed as the best. There's nothing. They're the ones who did everything.
There's no tension. It's
Yeah.
almost like the problem that some people can have, I think, with like Superman, you know,
Yes.
where it's like, okay, well, he's just perfect. What else? Like, what's interesting about this character?
Yeah.
You know?
And before comic book people come at us, we know Superman would never make fun of anybody's religion. So I saved you there. That's
Okay.
Superman is nice.
That is not a thing I know. I really don't know much about Superman
He's-
other than he's like, than the
best guy.
criticism that he's one dimensional. He's the best, but
yeah.
that's kind of it.
It's hard in film because he's hard. He really is one dimensional when you do that. It's the same type of problem really with Captain America. The way that he's sometimes presented, he's a more nuanced character in comic books because he's actually not what you would think. He's anti-establishment, but
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing. But both of them are considered like perfect, and you're right. It's a Superman problem. It is weird in this case for two reasons. Because one, we don't know much with real interpersonal relationships with the elves, so
Yeah.
we can't put on any personal.
Yeah, we haven't met any elves other than
And
Arya.
And Arya doesn't really give us much, so
Yeah.
it's not. We can't really like fight that.
And
You know
she's
what I
at
mean?
odds by her own admission. She's at odds with some elves. So we're just like, what are we supposed to think here? Everybody's just
Yeah.
kind of obsessed with them, but we don't know why.
And this happens a lot in all authors do this. They like either cultures or they like people, they like races or whatever.
Yeah.
This here is one of those things where I'm like, in doing this, I think we're already seeing maybe a little bit of a problem.
Maybe he just has a little bit of a blind spot to the way that they come off. It's like we all do.
Because in his head, he's like, oh, they're great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the other thing that I said about Aragon in the not having beliefs, every single culture on Earth, every human being that has ever existed, to our understanding and knowledge, has had creation myths, traditions, beliefs of some sort.
Yes.
Even if they were not a collected religion, there is what we would call
A myth.
a myth or what ultimately is a religion, right?
Yeah.
Even if they don't call it that.
Yeah. Some kind of unifying cultural story or tale.
Yeah, and it also, with this, it also doesn't, the creation myths we get from the dwarfs don't really answer a why. There's no like, why do the dwarfs believe this? It's a little unclear here. There's no like, there's no like answer to be solved.
Yes.
They just believe.
I guess.
Like when you like traditional monotheistic, not to cut you off, but like traditional monotheistic religions, it's after your afterlife, right? We have their burial reasons, but we didn't get any of that.
Yes, I guess for me, I do really understand the hater's point about Aragon and his portrayal not taking into account the fact that like he must have some sort of religion coming into this. But I guess on the point that like there's no why for the dwarven religion. Yeah. At least to me, this is a very personal thing, but like at least to me, it feels like a lot of religions have that. Like the afterlife is something, sure, that you're like gaining brownie points to like get to heaven. But I think in a lot of ways, that's kind of a shallow explanation. And then there's no explanation for why a lot of the other like tenets of Christianity, for example, might exist. And then I think there are a lot of religions that don't have any kind of afterlife connection or aren't necessarily connected to death.
Maybe I didn't express that like fully. You know, you get reasons to live in a certain way. Mm-hmm. Things you can't eat, things you can't say, things you can't do, things you should do, the way you should treat people. Most religions, well, almost all of them have those. In this, we get all of the gods and their myths, which is really cool. It might be one of those things he just didn't put in. Yeah. But with none of it, it does read as a little flat to a lot of people who love like fantasy religions. Okay. Because like a lot of them are based. I mean, even think of Wheel of Time, which doesn't even have a religion. The world belief gives you those things. You are reborn. You're going to come back. Like it guides the way people live their lives. Yeah. And you can point to things like the White Cloaks and go, they have like creation myths that make them do things. Yeah. There's none of that here, and it does make it seem a little flat. But I get what you're saying. I don't think for me, it's not a problem because we don't know enough. Yeah. And I think that's really what this is.
Well, and it's like, okay, if you spent one day studying at Sunday school, like...
what would you know?
Yeah, maybe they didn't quite get to all of that. I could kind of forgive it, I think.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a big deal. I do think the Aragon thing's a little weird.
Yeah, that's a part of it that strikes me, and I really had never thought about it before. Yeah. You mentioned it just right now, but it totally makes sense. Thanks a lot, haters. Way to ruin it.
I know. Because you would go, right? You'd be like, that's not what I've learned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think for me, it maybe is a little bit of a signal that religion, while cool, while it's adding to the world building here, it maybe is not a huge facet of this book. And like, it's not something you need to dig so much into to like make sure it's absolutely airtight. And I love the deep dive to celebrate it, to go over like all the points about it. Yeah. And I think it's fine there.
Yeah, I think it's good. That's why sometimes I hate this section, because I don't want to denigrate the cool stuff we loved about it. But that is a few of the things. And last, the next criticism is Roran and the people of Carvajal fighting back both the Razek and the soldiers, which we both loved. Yeah. One side has weapons, training, armor, and boogeyman nightmare creatures who strike fear into humans when they look at them. They should not have been pushed back by the villagers. It just shouldn't be possible, is normally the argument. Yeah. So even if we accept that, and we accept that they push the soldiers back when they ambush their camp, like even if that makes slightly more sense. They're asleep. There's horses running. It's a little different. The scene with the teen stabbing the dead body is weird. No one stops him. It's just weird. The haters don't like it, because the haters, they can pick on something, bring up their like, it really bothers me, you know what I mean? So they didn't like that. Also, the villagers are right to be mad. There's a line in here that calls the people who don't want to fight the Empire cowards. A small group of them took action to protect one person, and those villagers are now gonna be liable for that. Yes. That doesn't make them cowards. It makes them people who didn't get a choice. It was they were out of the loop, and they didn't get to say like, hey, I want to be in on the ambush, or let me help the villagers to protect my family, or I would like to protect my family by not doing anything. So none of this really makes sense here. While it is very cool, some of it is a little illogical or happened in the wrong way. Like, you know what I mean? And so none of it bothers me, but I will say the Norfervel thing did read weird to me when I read it as a kid, because I was like, why is that allowed? But that's the only one in this 2-book series so far that I remember as a kid being like, oh, that's a little weird.
Well, I guess so. I think maybe like agreeing with one thing kind of proves the other thing false a little bit. So with the Nulforel thing, I think the reason it reads with a little bit of the ick is what you're saying, that none of the characters condemn it. It's kind of wrong and like nobody is speaking up to say anything.
Especially Roran. He's supposed to speak for us.
Yes, exactly. I guess with the idea that we're like calling the villagers cowards, that's something that is done by the character in the book very specifically to like sway them to their cause. I don't think that is Christopher Paolini saying, yes, they're cowards and we should all believe that. You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree. I think I get kind of where the haters coming from, but I agree with you that like this is to like motivate them in a like speaking, like convincing way. Like,
yes,
right?
that's what I'm like. I agree they're not cowards. I agree that's a bad thing to say. But I also think it's perfectly in character for the group of villagers who perpetrated the ambush to say that. Like, that feels like perfect characterization.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I totally agree. I'm not with the haters on this at all. I totally agree. I just present what the haters say.
I know.
So also the thing about them fighting back on the actual like face-to-face fight, that one is a middle ground one for me. I think an argument could be made, but there's a lot of villagers.
Yeah, I think it's a quantities game, as you're wont to say.
Yeah, I think it's a quantities game here. I think most of that stuff is, unless you are really outclassing them. And like, you know, the Seether oil was only used to like remove a barricade. It wasn't used on people.
Yes.
So it's like maybe they didn't have enough. I think this is fine for me. It didn't bother me in any reading
I
ever.
guess maybe for me, it's maybe a little similar to the way we breeze through a training montage sometimes, the way we're able to like learn how to be a blade master in 4 weeks. It's like,
so
okay,
good.
the quantities we're going to win out eventually.
Right.
For the villagers. Did we all want to read a 3-month-long like brutal siege that like destroyed half the village and they all come out of like haunted and like grim? This is not that kind of book. And like, I think in the interest of time and entertainment value, they were like, well, they could have won anyway, and it's better not to make it the worst.
A whole thing.
Yeah.
I also think like what you just said is like 4 months Blade Master, all these villagers can take out like a handful of soldiers with the Razak.
Yeah.
That makes perfect. I totally agree.
And
with
they
you.
don't take out the Razak too, notably.
Right.
The Razak just like go.
Leave.
And I think that's kind of in character for the Razak. They ran away from just Murtag, remember?
And
with some
just
arrows.
Braum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like they are runners. I think that makes sense to me.
Yes.
They're like, oh, sure, kill our soldiers.
Unless
we give a fuck.
And it seems like unless they know they're gonna win, they're out. They don't do anything. So, which is actually really interesting, and it's the best argument against the haters because it's like I think this is showing us something.
We did it, haters.
We did it. So stay back, haters. We don't like you here.
Yes. If that's it for the haters, Dane, how are you feeling at the end of this week's section?
I'm feeling good. I like this section. I like everything here. I love the new clan we get. I love the insights on the dwarves. I love that we're getting more information about their creatures and their clan. It's just all really cool. I also love these Roran chapters. I think Roran is quickly becoming a new fave for me.
Roran, who you would kill?
Roran, who, well, I was left with poor choices, but yes, Roran I would kill is becoming quickly one of my favorites.
That's fair. Yeah. I do love Roran. I really like I said, the contrast to me here between Eragon and Roran is really building the more we get the flashes between their points of view in this book. And it just makes me want to keep reading and get, I think alternately, which is kind of funny, as soon as I end an Eragon section, I'm like, well, shit, I want to go back. Where's he going now?
Right.
Like, he made it to the rafts. What next for the Elismira entourage? And then same with Roran. It's like, well, if they chased out the Razak, what now?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get into the next week.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, and I think we can be done.
Okay.
I think we've gone through. I think Hellsvog would allow us.
Please, Papa Guntera. I need to get out of this room, Papa Guntera. Let me go.
No, we have to worship. What's her name?
Oh shit, the dirt lady.
Yeah,
Sindri. Sindri, who molded us out of dirt. Yes. I need to go shower and be clean because I am made of dirt.
I don't want to be dirty at all. Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to us, crazy people.
Why?
Make sure to rate and review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Support on Patreon and check out our social media at Is This Just Fantasy Pod on TikTok or at Just Fantasy Pod on Insta and Twitter. If you have any questions or comments or just want to write us about the podcast, we would love to hear from you. And you can email us at isthisjustfantasypod@gmail.com.
Amazing. If you also would like to keep pace and read along with us, on our next episode, we're going to be covering Chapter 15, Diamonds in the Night, through Chapter 20, Ceres.
I love Diamonds in the Night.
Diamonds in the Night. That's a Rihanna song.
Is it?
Well, not really.
We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. Come on and listen to us next time. Find out what our deep dive will be. Thanks for catching our show.